Hi you guys, this is how you change an oil pan on a 2008 Kia Sportage with a 2.7 liter. First you're going to want to drain all the oil. Make sure it's all drained out, so when you drop the pan it doesn't make a huge mess. Next you're going to want to remove the splash shield. It has 5 12mm bolts in it. Remove the 5 12mm bolts, and there's one clip, and then the splash shield will come down. Alright, next thing you're going to want to do is install the drain plug so it's not leaking oil on you while you're trying to remove the exhaust. After you install the drain plug, tighten it a little bit. You don't have to kill it tight, just so it won't leak oil. And after this step, you're going to grab your penetrant, PB Blaster, WD-40, KPS, spray those bolts down liberally, then make them a lot easier to come off. For this one, I just used a 1-inch gun. I didn't use the torch. I usually use the torch too, along with the 1-inch gun. So now you're going to want to remove the exhaust, or start removing the bolts for the exhaust. You see me get my impact gun up in here and get those bolts out. Got a supporting jack under the exhaust. We're going to drop the exhaust off of the manifolds so we can have access to the 3 bolts that are hidden under the Y pipe. Okay, once the exhaust is dropped, we're going to slightly remove 2 of these bolts and leave them started, and then remove the other bolts. The 2 bolts stay in to support the oil pan when it finally releases from the block. I like to pry on the oil filter housing or the oil filter instead of prying up against the mating surfaces of the block. It keeps the block straight and makes it so there's no gouges that get put into the block. I had to shove this screwdriver in here and get a pry bar and pry a little bit from the frame onto the edge of the oil pan. But after about a minute I finally got it broke free. And here's the old pan coming out. There's the oil pan. There's the pickup screen in the bottom of the engine. Now I'm going to clean the mating surfaces of the block and the oil pan. I'm not reusing the old oil pan, it was rotted. Now we're going to apply sealant to the new oil pan. I sped this up so it wouldn't take as long. I'm usually pretty fast about this. So you're going to want to border the whole oil pan in RTV sealant. I use the Right Stuff by Permatex because you can put the vehicle right back in service after. Some of the RTVs that you buy, you have to wait for them to cure, and when you do it for a living, you simply just don't have time for that. So you see me fix my little mess up right there. And you're just going to want to border the whole oil pan and around the bolt holes on the inside edge. And once you've got the sealant applied, put 2 bolts in and start to easily lift the pan into place. Make sure first that there is no debris or oil on the mating surfaces of the block. You want it to be nice and clean when you lift that pan in. I couldn't get a video of me lifting the pan in, but basically you start from the inside and work your way out when you tighten the bolts. When you're tightening the bolts initially, be very easy on them because they do have a specification for the torque. The specification is 9 Newton meters. You're going to want to torque these bolts from the inside out to make sure that the oil pan sits flush up against the engine block. Right now I'm just snugging the bolts up real easy with my 1/4 inch nut driver. And the light's going to follow me here. Once you have all the bolts started and pretty much snugged up, just make sure you don't over tighten them first, because you need to come back and torque them. So this is when I'll get the torque wrench and I'll set it to 9.5 Newton meters and work my way from the inside out on the oil pan. This makes sure that all the bolts are to the correct tightness, and also make sure that the gasket seals up properly. After you torque them from the inside out, it's always good to go around in a circle and make sure that all of them are tight before you go on to the next step. The next step is going to be to reinstall the exhaust. So you'll line the Y pipe back up on the manifolds and start your bolts and then tighten your bolts. Do not use the 1-inch gun to tighten these bolts. I personally tighten them with the nut driver, and then I use a 1/2 inch ratchet to make sure that they're tight. And from this point out, you can remove the oil filter, replace it, and make sure that the drain plug that is in the oil pan that you bought from the parts store is tight. That is key. Do not forget that. Sometimes they're not tight. I hope this helps. Have a good day, guys. Bye.